The sound of twisting metal and shattering glass did not come all at once, it arrived in fragments, like memories breaking apart in slow motion. Rain smeared the windshield into a gray blur as the car spun, and in that suspended second before impact, the female CEO felt the weight of her own life pressing down on her chest, years of control, ambition, and loneliness colliding with a single violent truth. When the car finally stopped, she made a choice that surprised even herself. She closed her eyes, let her body go slack, and pretended to be unconscious, unaware that what she was about to hear would reach deeper than the crash ever could. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what really matters, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel name. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. She had learned long ago that power did not protect the heart. Rising from a modest background to become the CEO of a powerful company, she had trained herself to read people as assets or risks, never as emotional anchors. Trust was a luxury she believed she could not afford. Even now, lying still in the wrecked car, she felt more in control, pretending not to hear than admitting fear. Sirens were distant, rain heavy, and then there were footsteps, hurried, uneven, familiar. Her assistant, a single father she barely noticed beyond his punctuality and quiet efficiency, was calling for help with a voice that trembled despite his effort to sound strong. As he reached the car, the world narrowed to his breathing and the smell of rain-soaked asphalt. He did not know she could hear him. He believed he was alone with a woman who might be dying, and that belief stripped him of the professional mask she had always seen. His words came out raw and unguarded, not the careful reports or respectful acknowledgments she was used to. In those moments, he spoke about responsibility, about how some people were given strength not to rise above others but to protect them. He spoke about promises made in silence, about the way life tests those who carry both ambition and love, and about how he would not let her face this alone, even if she never woke up to thank him. The CEO felt something inside her chest tighten painfully. This was not admiration, not loyalty born of fear of losing a job. This was something far more unsettling, care without expectation. She had built an empire believing that people stayed only as long as it benefited them, yet here was a man who stayed because it was simply the right thing to do. As rain soaked through her hair and jacket, she realized she had never allowed herself to be seen as fragile, never allowed someone to stand beside her without needing anything in return. The assistant's life had been shaped by loss long before this night. After his wife's sudden passing, he became both mother and father to a young child, learning patience through exhaustion and strength through routine. Every morning began before sunrise, lunches packed with care, small shoes tied with tired fingers. By the time he arrived at the office, his grief was tucked neatly behind professionalism. He never spoke of his struggles, never asked for flexibility, believing dignity came from doing what needed to be done without complaint. The CEO knew none of this. To her, he was simply reliable, replaceable, invisible in the way dependable people often are. The accident changed that invisibility forever. As emergency lights finally washed the scene in red and blue, the assistant stayed close, shielding her from the rain, speaking softly even though he thought she could not hear. His words were not dramatic, they were simple, almost ordinary, but that was what made them powerful. He talked about hope not as a grand idea but as something built quietly, day by day, through choices that no one applauds. He admitted fear, not of losing his job, but of losing another human being without having done everything possible to help. When help arrived and she was taken to the hospital, she kept her eyes closed, carrying his words with her like a secret. Doctors spoke, machines beeped, and yet the most significant sound in her memory remained his voice in the rain. In the days that followed, as she recovered from minor injuries, she replayed the moment again and again. It forced her to confront the emptiness she had mistaken for independence. Success had given her authority, comfort, and recognition, but it had quietly taken away her ability to connect. Returning to work weeks later, she saw the office differently. The glass walls and polished floors felt colder, the hierarchy more fragile. When she looked at her assistant, she no longer saw a role, she saw a person carrying unseen weight. She began to notice the way he checked his phone at precise times, the slight rush in his step near the end of the day, the careful budgeting of energy. For the first time, she wondered what kind of life waited for him beyond the office doors. Change did not come dramatically. It arrived in small decisions. She adjusted meeting schedules without explanation. She listened more than she spoke. She asked questions, not about productivity, but about perspective. The assistant, surprised and cautious, responded with the same quiet honesty that had guided him through grief. He never mentioned the accident, never sought recognition for that night, and that restraint only deepened her respect. She realized leadership was not about being untouchable, it was about being accountable to the humanity around you. The company itself began to shift. Policies softened without weakening standards. Support programs were introduced quietly. Trust replaced fear in subtle ways. Employees felt seen, not watched. And at the center of this transformation was a CEO who had finally allowed herself to be affected by someone else's integrity. The assistant's influence was never official, never announced, but it was undeniable. His presence reminded her that strength did not always need to be loud to be unbreakable. One evening, long after the office lights dimmed, she stood alone in her office, looking out at the city she once believed she had conquered. Now it felt different, less like a battlefield, more like a shared journey. She thought about the night of the accident and how close she had come to continuing her life unchanged. Pretending to be unconscious had revealed a truth she might never have learned awake, that people are at their most honest when they believe they are unseen. Near the end of her recovery, she made a decision that marked a quiet turning point. She created opportunities not just for advancement, but for balance, understanding that no success was worth the cost of compassion. The assistant's life improved in ways that went beyond financial stability. Time with his child increased, stress eased, and with it, a sense of dignity that came not from charity but from respect. Their professional relationship remained intact, but beneath it ran a deeper current of mutual understanding. As the seasons changed, the memory of the accident faded into the background of daily life, but its lesson endured. The CEO learned that vulnerability was not weakness, and the assistant learned that being seen did not require self-sacrifice to the point of disappearance. Together, without grand gestures or public acknowledgement, they reshaped a small corner of the world simply by choosing empathy over distance. If this story has touched your heart so far, if it has reminded you of the power of quiet kindness and unseen strength, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to channel name. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who may need them. Just before we end, I invite you to comment below and share what this story made you feel, or a moment in your life when kindness changed everything for you. In the end, the accident was not the most important collision that night. The real impact happened when two lives, shaped by loss and ambition, met in vulnerability and truth. One pretended to be unconscious to avoid fear, and the other spoke from the heart because he believed no one was listening. What followed was not a fairy tale, but something far more real, a reminder that even in moments of chaos, humanity can rise quietly and change everything.